Praise the Lord, my beautiful, blessed souls. Back with another word. We are bruised and not broken. I am here. As you can see, I have been trying to get me a little bit of rest and a little bit of, but I'm going to try to get this one out. It's Deuteronomy chapter 3. It is a good one. So let's get to it. Then we turned and went up the way to Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, and he and all his people to battle at Idri. But the Lord said to me, do not fear him, for I have given him and all his people and his land into your hand. See, when God is for you, I tell you, and you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived at Heshbon. So the Lord our God gave into our hand Og also, the king of Bashan, and all his people. And we struck him down until he had no survivors left. See, when God is in judgment mode, or he's in whatever he's doing, people seem to think Christians, people, please understand, whether it's a person, whether it's God, when you're thinking about, just doing stuff. Because as we can see, a lot of this is war. Why? Because they were doing a lot. This has a lot of significance even now with what is going on over there. They are unjustly, doing things to people. And because God is a God of justice, don't think he won't step in, because the cries of the righteous blood that was shed, the innocent for no reason, cries out for justice. And so that's when God picks up and he, goes to war. And people think it's you that they're warring with. They're not warring with you. They're warring with God. Because at the end of the day, this is what goes on. And when we look at it, we see what he told the people. These are his people. He said, I've given you that you're going to go get it. Why? Because who can fight against God? Nobody. So, and we took all of his cities at that time. There was not a city that we did not take from them. 60 cities, the whole region of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All these were cities fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, besides very many unwalled villages. And we devoted them to destruction, as we did to Sihon, the king of Heshbon, devoting to destruction every city, men, women, and children. See, look at this. When God come do something, he's not coming to play. He's not coming to fight. He's coming to slay, to kill the whole bloodline, to cleanse it all out. He don't leave nothing behind. If he say go in and take the land and kill them all, and don't leave not anything unturned, this is what he means. And whenever they didn't do that, it was a cost to them, because something sprouted after. But we're gonna get to it. But all the livestock and the spoil of the cities took as our plunder. So we took the land at that time out of the hand of the two kings of the Amorites, who were beyond the Jordan, from the valley of Ammon to Mount Hermon. The Sidonians call Hermon Syrian, while the Amorites call it Sinir. All the cities, that tableland and Gilead, and all Bashan, as far as Selecah and Idris, cities of the kingdom of Og in Bashan. For only Og, the king of Bashan, was left, the remnant of Raphim. I want to know, behold, his bed was a bed of iron. Is it not in Rabbah, the Ammonites? 9 cubits was its length, and 4 cubits its breadth, according to the common cubit. When we took possession of this land at that time, I gave to the Reubenites and the Gadites the territory here, beginning at Aor, which is on the edge of the valley of Ammon. That was what they agreed to. And half the hill country of Gilead with its cities. The rest of Gilead and all Bashan and the kingdom of Og, that is the region of Argob, I gave the half tribe to Manasseh. And all the portion of Bashan is called the land of Rephaim. Jair the Manassite took all the region of Argob, that is Bashan, as far as the border of the Gershites and the Maccathites, and called the villages after his own name. Havoc Jair is it to this day. To Machir I gave Gilead, and to the Reubenites and the Gadites I gave territory from Gilead as far as the valley of Arnon, with the middle of the valley of the border as over the river Jabbok, the border of the Amorites, Arba, also the Jordan, as the border from Chimerith, as far as the sea from Araba, the salt sea, under the slopes of Pisgah on the east. And I commanded you all at that time, saying, the Lord your God has given you this land to possess. All your men of valor shall cross over armed before your brothers, the people of Israel. Only your wives, your little ones, and your livestock. I know that you have much livestock shall remain in the cities that I have given you, until the Lord gives rest to your brothers. As to you, and they also occupy the land that the Lord your God gives them beyond the Jordan, that each of you may return to his possessions which I have given you. And I commanded Joshua at that time, your eyes have seen all that the Lord your God has done to these two kings. So will the Lord do to all the kingdoms into which you are crossing. You shall not fear them, for it is the Lord your God who fights for you. Exactly. And we're going to get into this too, because it's going to have a lot of symbolic meaning. And I pleaded with the Lord at that time, saying, O Lord God, you have only begun to show your servant your greatness and your mighty hand. For what God is there in heaven, on earth? Who can do such works and mighty acts as you? Exactly. Please let me go over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, that good hill country and Lebanon. But the Lord was angry with me because of you and would not listen to me. And the Lord said to me, enough from you. Do not speak to me of this matter again. Wow, God was, yeah. Go up to the top of Pisgah and lift up your eyes westward and northward and southward and eastward, and look at it with your eyes, for you shall not go over this Jordan. This is to Moses. I hated this for him. But charge Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he shall go over the head of this people, and he shall put them in possession of this land. You shall see. So we remained in the valley opposite Beth Peor. So this is talking about when he was disobedient, and this was the consequence of that. So Moses in this chapter relates, one, the conquest of Og, so he's rehearsing it, king of Bashan and the season of his country, the distribution of these new conquests to the 2.5 tribes under certain provisos and limitations, the encouragement given to Joshua to carry on the war which was so gloriously begun, and Moses' request to go over into Canaan with the denial of that request, but grant of an equivalent, meaning he could only see it. So we're going to get into this, because this, I hated they did my boy Moses like this. I hated that they did my boy Moses like this. Moses done been through a lot now. He done been through a lot. And see, it's hard. And I know that was hard for him, because getting angry, which, one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control. And I think as believers, this is something we all, because when we look at all of them, that's what all of them talking about, from Moses to Abraham, they've all done things, whether it was lying, drinking, killing, whatever. They all had their stuff that they had issues with, that God had to heal them from. But remember, it wasn't all at once, because we see he still had anger in him. He was angry because he lost his temper. When God told him to speak to the rock, he hit the rock. But that was out of the frustration that he was dealing with from the people. Why? Because all of the stuff they had been putting Moses through. And I hate that he didn't get to see the land after all of that. He went through all of that to get them there, and was not able to go in, but was only able to see it. I was like, oh, that hurted me so much. And I know I probably hurt him too. But anyway, Deuteronomy 3 is one of those chapters where the story shifts from survival to strength. Exactly. And Moses is shaping a generation that must see themselves as capable, victorious, and trusted by God. Exactly. We built this little thing, and it's going to be a structured summary, so we're going to look at it. Israel defeats, in the first chapter in this sentence, Israel defeats Og of Bashan, takes possession of the Transjordan territories, assigns land to Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh, and Moses pleads unsuccessfully into the promised land. Now, if we look at what they're doing over there, they're fighting now. The old maps will show exactly what is going on over there, because remember, God specifically gave certain ones this, certain lands. And when you think about the 12 tribes, they all had, if you notice, boundaries, specific places that he gave them to possess, and the other places that they were not. So now when you see people over there and they're fighting and everybody's talking about they're the ones and they're not, this is what we got to pay attention to. Why? Because God is the only one that could give land. And when you think about the sojourners, or people being from other places and coming other places, God is the only one that can actually do those type of things. And he never was a one to mistreat people from other places, even though they weren't from those lands. So when you think about what's going on in the world, and none of them were originally, especially now, when you think about America, who is really originally from here. And most people are natives, and the ones that were from here, they killed off. So when you think about it, how can you be angry and upset and throwing people away and shipping them and talking about this is your land and folks need to go back, when you're not even from here technically. So it's like you look at the things that they're doing and it makes no sense, especially with all the other scandals that they're going through. I mean, come on now. I don't even know how you're in office twice, how you got all this stuff going on, and along with the war and everything else, how did you even do all of this? But see, we're going to leave that alone. So the defeat of Og, king of Bashan. This is the narrative. Israel moves north after defeating Sihon in chapter 2. Og, a giant king of Bashan, comes out to fight. So this must be something like the David and Goliath situation, to where this is a big, these are big people. They're tall, they're mighty, they're strong. We talk about the pharaohs in our lives, the mountains, the peaks, whatever it is. And when we see that you have big things in front of you and there's blocking and stopping, God will, he will, even if you got to fight it to remove it, God will allow you to fight, but you will come out on top. So Og, a giant king of Bashan, comes out to fight. God says, do not fear him, for I have delivered him into your hands. Why? Because whomever God says, just go do it, because it's already going to be a victory. Israel destroys Og, his cities, and takes the land. Now, the text highlights Og's massive iron bed. It symbolizes the scale of the victory. So God trains Israel to face bigger enemies with bigger confidence. Why? Because this is like every battle that you're going to fight in your life. There's always going to be a bigger something. Each level is new devils. This is what is in the physical, the natural, the spiritual, whatever you want to call it. It's all going to be in your life, whether it's, your mental health, whether it's your physical, emotional, physical, financial, spiritual. Whatever it's going to be, it could be with your family, your friends, your children, whoever. It could be with whomever, whenever, at any given time. It could be at your workplace. It could be with your spouse. It could be with family. It could be with friends. We don't know. But whatever is going on, it could be a sickness. It could be like your health issues that you got to battle. So people are dealing with that now. But they're big battles. So when God says he's going to deliver into your hand, do not have no fear. And I say that because we have to look at it, because God is the one who fights, the battles for you. You may have to go in and do your part, but he's going to already give it to you. Distribution of the Transjordan land. Moses assigns the conquered land east of the Jordan to Reuben, Gad, half the tribe of Manasseh. But these tribes must cross over right and fight with their brothers until all Israel receives their inheritance. Inheritance comes with responsibility. Unity precedes settlement. Now, this makes a lot of sense, because they have to work together and see. This is what God is teaching them, their family. And this is so important, that you work together and not against each other, and not having people divide you, because dividing is conquering. A house divided amongst itself shall not stand. So when you look at this, it makes a lot of sense in every aspect. Now, he agreed to give them those lands, but they had to first help the rest of them. And when you think about that in a family sense, okay, because either we all are going to win and we're going to enjoy together. This is what making it is all about in this world. It's not about making it by yourself. It's about, if you're not making it with your family with you intact and in tow, it's not making any sense. So as we can see, God is already letting them know this. And this is something that they're having to learn how to work together in spite of their difficulties and differences. Because up until this point, they have been against each other. They have been warring against each other and against God. So when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Joshua's leadership commission. Moses told Joshua, your eyes have seen what the Lord did, so shall he do to all the kingdoms you are about to enter. Remember, we're trying to fight folks, are you going to win all of the battles? Some of them you do. Well, with God you do. He never loses battle. But it's winning the war. But God, you're not losing battles and you're not losing wars. This is God never lost a battle. He never loses any battle. Joshua is commanded not to fear, and this is why once God tells you don't fear, the battle is already yours. You have to go in and physically do it, but it's already yours. Theme: leadership is built on memory. What God has done right already in your life becomes a blueprint for what he will do. This is why I'm like, I don't know why people think when you save, you're supposed to be some meek, weak person. You're not. God has never been meek or weak. He might be meek, but he's not weak. He might be loving and caring, but he has never been weak or, no. And that's what people seem to equate that with. And I know when it comes to being a Christian or being a believer, a lot of times people think they can just walk all over you, do what they want to do to you because you're a believer. But like I said, a lot of times people don't know that an eye for an eye and a tooth for tooth is also in the Bible. And that God has already slain because he knew that there would be enemies. You're going to have battles. This is why you take up your armor every day and you fight. Not just you fight in the spiritual, but it's going to come in the natural. So when you look at certain people, places, and things, and what's going on in your life, and like I always tell people, and I always tell people all the time, I don't start anything with anybody, but ain't nobody going to do anything. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be done. Not necessarily me, but if it has to be, then so be it. But I know God is going to fight my battles no matter what's going on. People, when they cross me, if they look in their lives, they'll see that certain things did not go out right for them. Because if I ain't never did nothing to you, especially, I ain't never did nothing to you. Because the just, I'm going to tell you, God fights for the righteous and the just. So once he sees that you're in the just, he's for justice. He's going to fight. Because it's justice. It's no reason for, you know what I'm saying? And when it comes to innocent people, he takes that very seriously. Moses pleases to enter the land. Moses begs God to let him cross the Jordan. God refuses and tells him to view the land from the mountain. Moses must strengthen Joshua, right? Because regardless, it's not about Moses. It's about them moving forward instead of entering himself. Even great leaders have limits. Exactly. Legacy sometimes meaning prepare the ones behind you to finish what you started. And this is so important when it comes to inheritance, when it comes to family, when it comes to everything we're talking about right now. Because it doesn't end with us. And this is the problem I have with people. Because when you get with people, do you want it to move on without you, or is it about always you? Because if it's about getting these things done, and that means that God will allow you to start like he did, bring someone else to finish that part, and then someone else after to finish, what is the problem with that? You see what I'm saying? You got to be able to be in whatever role, if it's a supporting role in the background. I tell people all the time, I spent most of my life in the background. And I didn't like being in front. I didn't want to be in front for a reason. Because I could be back there and just do, what I need to do and let that be that. But, in a supporting role is very important. People don't think of it. Everybody wants to be number one, but that's not always your role. And can you play that good supporting role if that's what you have to do? If it's not about you? Because when we make it about us, it becomes a problem. That's when we get the issues and the problems all the time. You see what I'm saying? Because it's not about us. It's not about me. It's not about it. It's about God and his work. So at the end of the day, fighting back and forth amongst yourselves, that's crazy. But Moses pleased to enter the land. Even great leaders have limits. Legacy sometimes means prepare others to finish what you began. Even with your children, you're preparing them. You're preparing them to leave the nest, to be on their own, to live life without you. Why? Because eventually you're going to leave here. They have to be self-sufficient and be able to sustain themselves. But if you don't teach them how to do that, then they won't be able to. So it's always going to be a case of, for the next generation. The next generation is always supposed to be better than the generation before. And if you're stopping that, if you're fighting against it, if you have a problem with it, you're evil, you're wicked, and you're demonic. Because that's not the way God has it. Everybody has a seed, and it's supposed to be sown, and everyone after it is going to be better than what was before it. This is how God works. So whenever you're trying to stop it, that's a problem. You can't stop the growth of the next generation. If not, that's going to kill out the bloodline. It's killing out everything. Why? That's why we're supposed to be fruitful and multiply. Okay, identity. Generational themes. Facing giants as a rite of passage. OG represents generational fear. Exactly. Inherited intimidation. The big thing that tries to block transition. And this is so true. Whenever you're trying to do something different and big, this would be it. Generational fear. No one else has done it. Inherited intimidation, being afraid because nobody else has done it, is something that you're looked at as being crazy. The big thing that tries to block this transition. Israel's victory marks a psychological shift, because remember, this is what has to happen. They have to leave Egypt behind in order to go into the promised land. So they can no longer be slaves. They are conquerors, more than conquerors. And I tell people, because I'm learning myself, we cannot wear our pain as badges of honor. We will get stuck there. We have to move forward. It happened, yes, and we work through it, but we have to be more than conquerors. We have to overcome it. And I'm learning that and working on it myself. Inheritance requires maturity. The transition tribes receive land early, but they must fight for others, stay unified, and not settle prematurely. Exactly, until everyone gets what they rightfully get. This is what fighting is all about. As a family, together, collectively, this is what God is teaching them. Why? Because I used to tell my kids, at the end of the day, all we have is each other. So me and them, our immediate family, that's what we have. And when we go outside of that, we're going to see that there's going to be problems. Because at the end of the day, we're closer than anyone else is. Everyone else has their family, and we have extended family. But the one you make is the one that is more pertinent, meaning that's where you're going to leave your legacy, your mark at. So it just depends on how that's going to look like. But you have to, be following instructions. You have to be working together. You have to be going. And as the head of the household, whoever that may be, sometimes the parent is the mother, sometimes it's the father. But depending on how they're running things, is going to have, like I said, I used to run it like a business. No one's going to get everything they want. You couldn't possibly. No one's going to be pleased. Because when you're running something, you can't please everybody. That's not going to work. So this models generational responsibility. Exactly. You don't rest till the whole family is free. Exactly. Not just one and this one and that one and the rest. No. Together, collectively, we all build and make sure each one of us has something before we. Exactly. We're not going to be selfish. We're not going to be self-centered. We're not going to be greedy. We're going to want this. And see, this is what God was showing them in all of this. This is yours. This is yours. Everyone gets something. You see? Leadership is transferred, not hoarded. This is so important. Moses' role shift from leading the people to preparing Joshua to lead the people. This is a generational time moment where you are passing the torch on to the next generation so that they can move on and fulfill whatever it is they're here to do and continue the bloodline on and everything else. God's no can still be loving. Moses' denied request teaches 1, boundaries, 2, humility, 3, acceptance, and legacy over ego. Yes, sometimes the promise is fulfilled through who? The next generation. Whatever wasn't done in yours can be done in the next. And this is okay because it is the natural cycle of life, as we just said. Now we're going to look at these layered summaries. Historical is Israel defeats Og, takes Bashan, assigns land, and prepares Joshua. Emotional, Israel learns courage, unity, and acceptance of God's boundaries. Generational, a new generation sees victory firsthand. Leadership shifts to Joshua. Identity, Israel steps into warrior identity. No more slave mentality, no more victim mentality. More than a conqueror, Moses stepped into mentor identity. Exactly. Instead of leading, he's now the mentor. And the spiritual is God reveals himself as a deliverer, a strategist, and a boundary setter. See, this is the art of war. God is the one. So we're going to look at, let's see. Okay, Deuteronomy 1, because we're going to look at it. Confronting the past phase of the parents' generation, right? Because that's very important. Whatever wasn't done needs to get done. Then there's an identity shift from we can't to we must. Exactly. Emotional work, grief, and accountability. Exactly. Because you got to mourn whatever was and let it die. Then in spiritual lessons, God remembers, restores, and redirects. Now, Deuteronomy 2, learning boundaries, timing, and restraint. Exactly. Have to have boundaries. Got to be learning, and timing is everything. And restraint. Also, from wanderers to discipline, inheritance. Discipline, discipline, discipline. Discipleship, discipline. The next is patience and obedience. So they're no longer wandering. They're disciplined and ready to inherit. They have to have patience and they have to have obedience. Then not every battle is yours. Honor others' inheritance. Exactly. This is so, and the boundaries is so beautiful. Deuteronomy 3, first major victory and leadership transition. From intimidated to courageous. Why? Because we have to grow in steps. It does not happen overnight. A child does not go from being a baby to being a full-grown adult. It takes time and process. It's okay. The emotional part is confidence and acceptance. Spiritual lesson, God equips you for giants and prepares successors. Exactly. Generational arc. Okay. Wilderness is the memory. The boundary training, that's what we had to do. Giant confrontation. Early inheritance, Transjordan. Leadership transferred from Moses to Joshua. And the promises within sight. That's what they're. This is emotional and spiritual architecture. Now, Moses' leadership made one. This is from leadership framework from Moses to Joshua. It's the transition, remember? Moses' leadership mode. Vision, carrier, intercessor, lawgiver, wilderness strategist, emotional stabilizer. He was the burden bearer for a traumatized people, and that is not an easy thing to do. Leadership posture, carrying people who don't yet know how to carry themselves. Lord, blessed Jesus, don't that says a lot. It screams out so much, doesn't it? Now you see why he was going through so much. And the hurt people that hurt people and bleed out. Not even realizing it. Joshua's leadership mode. Warrior, executor of promise, territorial strategist, courage, activator, inheritance enforcer. His posture, leadership posture, leading a healed generation into ownership. See? Ooh, is it from slaves to owners? You see that? Your mind got to change, baby. Transition principles are based on one, memory as a training. Moses' role, your eyes have seen. Joshua's role, so shall the Lord do. Courage transfer, encourages Joshua, receives the mantle of boldness. Boundary acceptance, accepts God's no, accepts God's now, accepts his yes. Legacy over ego, prepares next leader, honors previous leader. Exactly. Generational continuity, finishes his assignment and completes the promise. This is what Moses and Joshua's role was. This is a model for any generational baton. Declaration is set in Deuteronomy 3. Facing OG moments, declarations for when you're facing something bigger than you've ever fought. Identity declarations. I am not who the wilderness made me. Exactly. That was transition. That was the healing. That was all of that. I am who God is forming me to be. I face giants with the strength of God who has already delivered me. My history does not intimidate me. It equips me. I am a conqueror stepping into inherited territory. Courage declarations. 1, I do not fear what looks bigger than me. God has already gone before me. Every giant is a confirmation of the size of my calling. I walk in boldness because God has proven himself faithful, right? Over and over again. That's why we got to look at where he has brought us from faith to faith. Generational declarations. I fight not only for myself, but for the generations connected to me. Exactly. This is why it's so important for them to know where you have come from so that they do not just not appreciate it, not be grateful and thankful for it. I carry the mantle of those who came before me. This is so important. And prepare the way for those after. This is so important. My victories become the blueprint for my lineage. Exactly, because they need to know when, where, and how you did it. It's not all about the victories. It's about when you failed, when you messed up. You got to know that part too. These are the lessons. These are the jewels and the gems. Why? Because people who have failed have so much to tell you about what happened, what didn't go right, that will teach you in the future of what not to do. Please understand. Leadership declarations. I strengthen those who will lead after me. Exactly. I honor the boundaries God sets, even when they stretch me, and I walk in clarity, courage, and obedience. Healing, identity, reflection. I got it too for emotional spiritual growth. Section 1. What feels too big for us right now? What is part of my identity feels challenged by this giant? This is my OG. What past victories can I recall that prove that I'm capable? Because sometimes we forget that when we're going through. Section 2, your Transjordan. This is the land you've already conquered but haven't fully settled into. Questions. What victories have you already won that you haven't celebrated? Sometimes celebration, we don't do that enough. We sometimes badger ourselves too much, We have to let ourselves off the hook at times to forgive ourselves of a lot of things. What territory, emotional, financial, spiritual, is already ours? What area is we already conquered, but we're not celebrating. We're not giving ourselves the credit. What responsibilities come with this early inheritance? That's another thing. Responsibility. Section 3, our Joshua moment. Who is strengthening or preparing? Who are we strengthening or preparing? What leadership mantle are we stepping into? Because there's different ones each time, different roles. You let go of the old mantle, take up the new one. What no from God is actually a redirection and not a rejection. Your promise in sight. What promise is close enough to see but not yet fully entered? What mindset must shift for you to cross over? And what courage must be activated? See, this is something that is so beautiful. I'm loving it. Hold on. They have more, and I want all of this because this is really, it's blessing me too. So we're going to go through this emotional healing map because we need it. Okay, emotional healing map is a 12-week generational transformation plan, prayer journal template, Moses versus Joshua leadership diagnostic. Each one is crafted, integrated identity, emotional architecture, generational patterns, and spiritual timing. Exactly the way. Okay, so emotional healing. 1 Deuteronomy 1, healing the wound of failure. Yes, I was just talking about this. This is a chapter breakdown of emotional work of God is on his way, because yes, Moses felt like he failed. Why he felt like he failed? Because he couldn't move forward, but also because he failed himself and he failed God when he did what he did, which was out of disobedience. So yes, shame from the past decisions. All right. Fear of repeating generational mistakes, distrust in one's own discernible abilities. Yes. Healing movements, naming what went wrong, accepting responsibility without self-condemnation. We're supposed to be accountable, but we can't continue to crucify ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves too. Rebuilding trust in God's voice, right? Identity shift from we failed to we can move forward. See, this is blessing me too. Deuteronomy 2, healing the wound of wandering. Core wounds, feeling stuck, feeling overlooked, confusion about timing. Yes, because a lot of times in our lives when we are wandering, we're not quite there, or we've, been transitioning, whatever is going on, and we tend to do that. Healing movements, learning boundaries, honoring others' inheritance, and accepting divine timing. This is identity shift from a lost wanderer to a disciplined inheritor. Now, boundaries is what we have to set for ourselves and others. Why? Because we have to do these things. Remember, they talked about them before when you don't have any. We don't want to continue to feel stuck. We don't want to feel overlooked. And we don't want confusion about timing. We want to be clear and concise because remember, timing is everything. Learning boundaries and keeping them, like I just was saying, we have to have boundaries because when we don't, it will be utter chaos. This is where rules and regs come along. If you notice, God did everything with them before he put them in there. Just like Adam and Eve in the garden, he prepared everything before he put them in there. Healing movements. So that's learning the boundaries, honoring others' inheritance. So meaning when it's time for us to chill on out and let somebody else do it, be just as enthusiastic. Be it just as helpful. Be it just as wanting to see them flourish, move forward, and grow. And accepting divine timing, meaning when God says go, when he says stop, whatever it is that you're doing, you must know you only move when he says move. That's what shepherding is all about. If he says stop, you stop. He said don't go anywhere. You can't move because you got to wait on God. Identity shift, right? From lost wanderer to disciplined inheritor. Deuteronomy 3, healing the wound of intimidation, core wounds, fear of big challenges, exactly. Feeling unprepared, anxiety about leadership transitions, and people when you're going into new stuff. It will feel this way. It does. It can. And, or if you're not, if God hasn't quite told you, because coming out of one place that you knew of into something new and different, it will always be a challenge or something there. Because that's where the faith comes in it. And that's where we have to just blindly walk and take the steps and let God just put the ground up under us. And it's not an easy thing. But it's about trusting him, not fearing, not having doubt or worry, but trusting God really and truthfully. So, healing movements, facing giants. Feeling unprepared and anxiety about leadership transitions, right? These are all big, because you're never going to be prepared for something that you haven't done before. It's like you're just starting out. You have to give yourself grace to start anew. You're going to make mistakes and give yourself grace once again to learn from them and get back up and move forward. This is how this is going to go. It's a blueprint. This is going to continue. Healing movements, facing giants, celebrating victories, even the little small steps, because a lot of times we do not give ourselves the grace. So facing the giants is facing whatever is so big and it's been challenging and not running from it, because it's easy to run, and whether it's the drinking, whatever it is you do, the vices to keep you from dealing with your stuff. We have to stop that. We have to really deal with it. And it's going to take time, and it may be ugly sometimes. We may not like it. We may cry. We may be hurt. We may, have to admit things and forgive things, whatever it is for ourselves, others. This is what it's going to be about. Then it's to celebrate, like I said, celebrate those victories, because you don't want to leave that part out, because when we don't celebrate ourselves and celebrate the little stuff we are doing, no matter how big or small, it makes us feel the resentment, the anger, the bitterness towards the journey. We want to be able to enjoy the process, and sometimes we don't. We're looking at all the other stuff, and that is a part of the process. So accepting God's boundaries, exactly knowing that they're there to protect us, whatever that may look like for you. It could be in many different areas of your life, the boundaries thing, and putting them up, and then you having your boundaries, other people having theirs, and God having his, because we got to respect all of that around. Preparing the next generation, this is so important, because we want them to get the blueprint and we want them to learn. But they have to be willing, and they have to be wanting to learn and be taught. If not, they're going to go through their wilderness cycles repeatedly until they do start to get it, because God doesn't let you move forward. He will allow you to complete the cycles until you get it. Identity shift from intimidated to courageous conqueror. And this is why we see certain things happen, because you ain't learned yet. You have to keep going through that until you can take the test and pass it. So we have all of these, generational foundations. Week 1, naming generational patterns, healing the fear of failure, rebuilding trust in God's voice, reframing your identity after past mistakes. Then you have boundaries and timing, learning what is not your battle, honoring others' inheritances, discerning divine timing, practicing emotional restraint and obedience. Yes, because emotional restraint and having self-control, it does get to be hard sometimes when you're going through different things. It is not an easy thing to do. Courage and leadership, identifying your OG, meaning the giant, celebrating the victories you minimize, exactly, accepting God's boundaries with maturity, meaning the nose, preparing your Joshua or stepping into Joshua identity for yourself. So our prayer journal template, section 1, what God is revealing. What truth is God highlighting today? What emotional is rising? What memory is being healed? 2, my wilderness patterns. Where am I circling? What fear or belief keeps me stuck? What is God saying long enough to, meaning you've been here long enough, it's time for you to come out, meaning learn it. Get it right. Section 3, my boundaries. What is not my battle? What is my assignment? And what timing is God clarifying? Section 4, my giants. What feels too big? What victory from my past proves that I can handle this? And what courage is God activating? Section 5, my legacy. Who am I preparing? What mantle am I carrying? And what promise is in sight? So this is the Moses versus Joshua leadership diagnostic as a tool to discern which leadership mode you'll be operating in and which one God is calling you to. Moses' leadership was you are in the Moses mode when you are carrying people through healing, stabilizing chaos, teaching foundations, interceding heavily for them, managing trauma responses, and holding space for a generation that isn't ready to fight. This is your strengths, compassion, wisdom, patience, and clarity. The shadow is over carrying, yes, exhaustion and feeling responsible for everything. These are the ways you wear yourself out. Okay, Joshua mode leadership. You are in Joshua mode when you are executing strategy, taking territory, activating courage in others, enforcing boundaries, leading people who are ready to fight, and moving from healing to building. This is strength, is boldness, clarity, action, momentum. The shadow is impatient, overdrive, and forgetting to rest. I see myself in some of both of these at times. I don't know. God, I need you to help me with this. So the diagnosis questions is, what kind of people am I leading right now? Meaning, Moses was leading the wounded. Joshua was leading the ready. What season am I in? Am I in the Moses season where we're healing or the Joshua season where we're building? Because remember, you got to heal before you build. What is God asking of me? To stabilize like Moses or to advance like Joshua? What is the emotional tone of my leadership? Gentleness and guidance, which is Moses, or courage and action activation, which is Joshua? And what is the generational assignment? Am I here to close cycles like Moses did, or I'm here to open new territory like Joshua did? So I hope that this was a really, really beautiful one because it stretched me and let me see a lot of things in myself that still need working on too. In some areas, not giving myself enough credit, overloading myself, kind of being intimidated, not really sure. So it's some things that, just gotta let God continue to work with me on. And then my temper and other things, because I tend to, God is really, when I tell people, oh, God is delivering me for some things, when, he's testing our patience and he's testing us in areas that we're not quite grown up in, and I say it's a process because we're supposed to be dealing with things better, in certain areas of my life that he's still working on me and got to deliver me out of. Now, I'm not where I used to be, which I'm glad, and I need to be thanking myself and thanking God mainly for, allowing it to come out of me, but then I'm not realizing it. So I'm not kind of celebrating those little small victories, or the victories. They're not small, but they are victories. And of where I once was with certain areas of my life and where I am now, better able to deal with certain things, handling them better, in stress situations, whatever, dealing with them so much better. So it's like I have to thank God for that because, I've mishandled things like this in the past. When it comes to certain areas. So I'm not quite where I want to be. I'm still transitioning, but I'm not where I used to be. So I'm going to celebrate where I am. I'm not going backwards. I'm going forwards. And let God continue to work in me and in my life with these areas, all these strengths and shadows. And when you know your strengths and your weaknesses, then you know what you need to work on. And, usually you try to work on the things that you're not so good at. And then you just build on the things that you are. So I hope this word was a beautiful word. It was a beautiful one for me. I said I'm going to get through Deuteronomy. I think it's 36 chapters. But then I am going to go on a little sabbatical before I start with the New Testament, which is going to be a beautiful thing. But the New Testament is quite lengthy. And I'm not trying to rush. I want to be able to get through each chapter, at least a chapter a day. But I do need time to rest and heal and do my work too. But anyway, we are bruised and not broken. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm hoping that these videos are reaching whoever it needs to, and it is a blessing to them with whatever is going on in their lives. You know, this is a way for them to look at themselves and to ask God for help and to seek Him for His guidance in their lives and how to go about doing it. You know, it's giving us, you know, ways of how to look at our lives and look at them from different perspectives, especially God's perspective, the Bible's perspective, so that we could go about doing, you know, better the healing work in our lives and moving forward. And also passing it down for the next generations, because they too need to have these tools and these blueprints to help them along their journeys. So, bruised and not broken. Like I said, you can like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can also, I have my Cash App thing in my bio. If you'd like to be a blessing to me and my family, it would be a beautiful thing. If I sow into you, please sow into me. If not, I understand. God is my source. He has always been my source. And He's my provider, my protector always. So, love you guys. And until the next one, be blessed.